Minnesota Vikings have been around since 1961. And I just want them to win a damn Super Bowl before I die. Welcome to Before I Die with Jesse and Miles on Purple Daily and Score North.
Just one before we die. Good morning. Happy Monday. Your Minnesota Vikings currently 8-2 with a 23-13 victory over the Tennessee Titans, guys. Meh. That game was not a whole lot. That's, I'm just that meh. Sam Darnold, good bounce back game for him.
Yes,
20 for 32 for 246 yards and 2 touchdowns. Let's start there. Sam Darnold finds his way back up. There's that positive. We don't hate quarterbacks on the Purple Daily channel. For those that seem to believe that's the case across all shows, we're just honest about the quarterback play. But boys, thoughts on Sammy D and the way he was slinging it yesterday?
He looked good. He looked confident. He looked comfortable. And I think they did a good job of getting him quick, easy throws to start the game to get him into a rhythm. Now, there were some hospital balls. That's what I call them, like that Jordan Addison one in the end zone. You'd like to see him protect his receivers a little bit better. He got bailed out on a couple of those because of that. And Addison I know Addison sounded like he had cramps, but he didn't get hurt from any of those big hits he took yesterday, so which is a positive. But yeah, we call those hospital balls, and those aren't fun as a receiver. So I think that was my only negative I think I had for him yesterday. I think overall he played well. He made smart decisions overall. He used his legs really well and escaped well. And that was like, you saw some of that, like Fran Tarkenton, like you're like, oh man, this dude's maneuvering the pocket. He's escaping. He's getting out of sacks, like using his legs well and finding guys downfield at times. So it was just really positive to see him look confident, look comfortable, and just kind of get himself back into a rhythm because these last few weeks were really rough. Not really rough, but last week was really rough especially. So nice to see that bounce back and some of that confidence back, and hopefully we see that trajectory as we move forward.
And no interceptions, guys. No interceptions.
And no interceptions.
And no interceptions. You have a botch toss to Aaron Jones
call
for a fumble, but no interceptions. So bravo. We like that.
Every team does this, but I love the continued coaching from KOC when you see Darnold walk off after literally every drive. They stop, they talk, they recap maybe what went wrong, what didn't go wrong, or what went well. And I think he's just the type of player that we're learning just continually needs that. He probably needs to be pumped up a little bit, probably needs that on-site, quarterback coaching, which also comes from Mr. McCown, which I thought it was fun seeing a few shots of him on the sidelines. I don't know if you guys saw this, but just him being pumped up and excited, and I think that's twofold. Obviously, it's his job to help the quarterback play, but there's a definite connection, and the broadcast talked about this yesterday of McCown and Darnold, so I find that aspect of it fun. If Darnold can continue to go, I would guess this, and we'll talk about this, but maybe I'm wrong here. If Darnold goes 20 for 32 for 246 and 2 TDs, you more than likely beat the Bears, correct? So if you can get that same type of play consistently going forward for Sam Darnold, it's darn near impossible now at this point to imagine this team, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, they almost mathematically can't miss the playoffs, right? You're literally talking about just finding 2 more wins. They're going to do that. They're still probably not going to win the division, so everything they do going forward to me is about getting this team right and getting them in a place where they could at least potentially win a road game or 2 to have some fun in late December, January. I think they can do that. I don't think the odds are super high, but I definitely think it is possible. This team, we know it by now. You don't get to 8-2 by mistake. So we'll see where it goes from here. But by and large, I love the term hospital balls, Miles. I always love when people say that. By and large, though, I think a pretty good effort from Mr. Darnold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your defense comes back. We've had a little bit of questions about some gaping holes and problems that they've had. Defense looked good. They do also make a change on the offensive line, guys. Benching Ed Ingram for Dalton Risner. Miles, what did you think about that move? Something that looks like it's probably going to stick. We've talked about how we feel about Eddie. It's not been great. Dalton Risner slotting in there. Looks like he'll probably be the starter there as well heading into Chicago.
Yeah, it didn't look that much better with Dalton Reisner, though. So I'm not
No.
going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, they did it. They figured it out. It's solved. It didn't look that much better. And I think the run game probably got hurt even more. We know that's the difference between Ed Ingram and Dalton Reisner is Dalton Reisner is a better pass protector than Ed Ingram. Ed Ingram's a better run blocker. Well, the run game yesterday was really bad. And I know it's been rough the last few weeks, so it's not just like a Dalton Reisner thing. But Reisner, I saw him kind of get beat a few times pretty quickly. I know it's his first game back, so hopefully he knocks some of that rust off. Moving forward, it just gets better. It's his first time playing the right side of the line, too. He's always been a left guard, so a lot of that happening. But I get why they made the change. Ed Ingram was struggling, even though he told us he was playing great. And I don't like to bash players because I think you should talk to yourselves that way as a professional athlete. It should never be like, I suck. I'm not a good player. It should be like, I'm going to amp myself up because you need to. You need to have that mentality. So I'm all for that. But it's clear the coaches didn't feel that way because they don't bench him otherwise. And so we'll see moving forward. Hopefully Reisner can kind of get into the fold. But, yeah, it wasn't great. I don't think, like, Bradbury and Reisner both probably didn't play very well. I saw Bradbury at one point get knocked on his butt. Similar to what we saw a few weeks ago, I know it was the time when Ingram stepped on his foot. I don't know if somebody got his foot stepped on this time, but it didn't look good from Bradbury getting bowled over. But that interior line just in general yesterday was a struggle. And that run game, I think we only had, 50 yards total, rushing 60 yards. It was pretty bad. But at least the run defense on our defense gave up only 33 yards against the Titans. So there's a give and take. But I would like to see the run game kind of get back to itself the way it was early in the season because it was really struggling. It's been a struggle the last few weeks.
Right.
So I noticed the Bradbury play, too. I'm glad you brought that up, Miles, because it leads me to this. Who spends more time on their bums on a Sunday afternoon, Garrett Bradbury or us three watching a football game? That guy is continually getting trucked to the ground. Every week you see a replay of him just getting trucked right to the ground. So, and again, that's nothing that's going to be fixed this year. It might be fixed in the offseason, but, I mean, he's clearly the best option, and he's kind of like this football team in a lot of phases. Sorry about my camera going glitchy there. I don't know if you guys saw that.
It looked cool, like a neon, like you're adding some special effects or something.
We have some new setups here at the HBI studios, and they showed me how to use some new equipment and told me report back any issues. Well, me going like, I don't know, 2075 glitchy future world stuff is probably worth noting. It distracted me so much I don't even know where I was going. So back to Jesse and Miles. Oh, yeah, the line play.
Yeah.
Astonishingly average, kind of like, I know they're 8-2, but just kind of like the last few weeks, just astonishingly average football. Like that never felt like Tennessee was going to win except for maybe the 98-yard touchdown pass from Will Levis, which absolutely cannot happen.
Man.
But aside from that play, it just never really felt like Tennessee was capable of doing anything. But just one time, just beat a bad team. I'm not saying the Vikings are the Lions, but
like you see what the lines, yeah,
52.
Exactly. And I think that's what the thing is. It's not that I think to that point, Ross, it's not that you have to beat a team by 40 or 50 or whatever the end up total different point differential was in that game between the Lions and Jags. But could we beat a team by 20? I know we did it to Texans earlier this year, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
But you should be doing that to these bad teams. This Tennessee team is not good. The Jag team last week was not good. Can we do a little bit more to that point where you're running up the score a little bit and you're like, sit back, put your feet up in the fourth quarter, just kind of one of those games. And I don't think any moving forward we're going to see that because you're not really facing any teams the rest of the way that are that bad. So you had a chance to kind of get it right. And I know they're on the road, all that stuff, all the good excuses you can have, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that. And they had a chance to do it. That 98-yarder really changed the trajectory of that game. 3rd and 12, backed up at their 2. And it was hard to watch.
You guys took the words out of my mouth. Like, that's what I was going to say. From a 1,000-foot view, 8-2 looks great, right? But when you dive into these last 4 games in particular, which is the easiest part of your schedule, and you're barely beating the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you're letting Tennessee hang around. I mean, I don't like it. And you had mentioned it too there, Miles. Texans, when you beat them, you're like, all right, yes, you beat the teams. There's no mercy. That's what you do. You do what Detroit did to Jacksonville. It makes me wonder how good this Minnesota Vikings team is. Again, I had low expectations, so I will always say that, like, this is fine. I'm happy with where they are at. But yeah, to close out your schedule, you're probably not catching Detroit. You going to Soldier Field this Sunday to beat the Bears, hopefully, maybe.
And they have a good defense too. So
Right.
I don't want to pretend like
No.
I know their offense has struggled, but their defense is really good.
Right.
And so like we can't overlook that, especially with the offense that has been struggling from the Vikings the last handful of weeks.
Well, and in all honesty, you two, if the Vikings play like they did the last few weeks, they won't beat Chicago.
Right.
And Chicago is basically out of it, but a win over the Vikings gives them some mild hope that
They should have beat Green Bay yesterday.
Yep, they exactly.
Block that kick. That's all
I go to my wife. There was like 3 minutes left in that game. I was like, "Oh, the Bears are beating the Packers." She goes, the final score is going to be Green Bay is going to win that one, essentially." And I look back with like 13 seconds left, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Incredible.
Well,
Absolutely
that's
incredible.
the life. It's not the life that we chose, but it's the life that we live, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So to the schedule point, it's really tough when you're struggling in games to put teams away, score points. You get opportunities. You're around midfield. You go 3 and out, or maybe you get a first down. You turn around and punt the ball back. It's really hard to believe that those things won't rear their ugly head against better competition. But also, if I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not saying this is good, when you look at their losses this year, and even their wins, they tend to play up or play down to the competition. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm looking for more consistency. But again, Jesse, I echo what you said. I thought, best case scenario, I think when we talked about this at the beginning of the year, best case scenario, they would go 10-7, but it was more in the 8-9 win total because the talent on this team is just too good to be really bad. Well, now when I look at it, it's almost impossible to believe that they'll
That's
only
what you
go
get for being a Debbie
Exactly.
Downer.
So
Hey, I don't even think I gave him 8 wins. I think I was like 6-7.
Your boy here gave him like 10, I think. So I called the playoffs for this team. Just
Nick
saying.
Swartzen gave him like 1 loss on the entire year. If
Of
you guys
course
go
he
back
did.
to that
Of
one.
course
It's
he did.
incredible.
I don't know how seriously we could take that prediction. So at the end of the day, though, expectations can change throughout the season. And I know the Sam Darnold we saw in early September is probably not the Sam Darnold we're going to see at any other point this year. But you still can work with him to be functional and be a solid quarterback. Hopefully he turned the corner again back towards being the best version of Sam this past Sunday against Tennessee.
And last thing I want to say, because I know we're gonna get hit with it. You guys are being negative. They won. They're 8-2. Yes, they're 8-2. They won. I'm very happy. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh man, woe is us. This team sucks. Just again, I think the whole point of that it was temper expectations a little bit. 8-2. Let's see how they can play. They can finish the season. I think they're going to be. There should be a playoff team, right? But just temper expectations of what you expect this team to be, heading into January. That's all. That's where I'm at. But that doesn't mean that they can't still be good and enjoyable. And I'm excited. Hopefully they can win a playoff game or two, win the Super Bowl. Give me that one. But I'm just going to temper my expectations. That's all.
Well, I don't know about you guys, and I've brought this up on the show before. If you ever had to look at a franchise in NFL history that could potentially win 3 outdoor road games in January to appear in a Super Bowl, it would be this Minnesota Vikings franchise. Historically, very great outdoors on the road.
Wouldn't that be our most random? The Vikings' first Super Bowl has to be the most random season ever, right?
It's going
It just has to be.
Yeah.
I've said that for years, Miles and Jesse, that the Vikings will make it to a Super Bowl in a year you don't expect it at all because they don't handle expectations well. So maybe it would be this year, just a fluky Eli Manning type run where you win 3 road playoff games. Don't know how you did it.
Sam Darnold turning into Eli Manning. Ooh.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Then you knock off Buffalo or Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Boy, that would be fun. A boy can dream.
Big dreams. We're really getting out there, getting there with the big dreams. And I think we're still being fairly positive about this team. I don't think we're overly critical. They don't pay me to be a cheerleader. However, you know who I do cheer for? I cheer for Nicolay Law. Why, Ross? Why should I cheer for Nicolay Law?
Okay, good transition. You had to set up the transition, but
I'll still
give it like a 6.5, maybe a
Okay.
7. So C's get degrees. Good
Yeah.
work. We cheer for Nicolay Law because they're helping out all of Purple Daily. They are the exclusive personal injury law firm of Purple Daily. Nicolay Law, they know that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a halt. It slows down. Things get complicated. We don't want that. That's where the folks at Nicolay Law come in. They're your normal, everyday folks. You see them out and about. They're in this community. They're local, and they're going to help you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. If you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers. Get Nicolay. Here's how you do that. NicolayLaw.com. That's NICOLET law.com. Or give them a call at 855-NICOLAY. That is 855-NICOLAY.
Comments from YouTube.
All right, kiddos, I lined up a few for you. Well, we've gotten in a habit here of taking them from Ventline, which I like to do because it's the most recent and the most hot takey of the fan base, and that's what makes me excited. Comment number 1 from yesterday's Ventline with Phil, Judd, and Declan comes from Ronald Gilson, 49.99. This team is overrated. Look at what Detroit did to Jacksonville, and we should have done the same thing. And today, against the Titans, I think he's saying we should have handled the Titans and Jacksonville very similarly to how the Lions ran one up on the Jaguars. So my question to you two, I'll start with Miles. We've kind of touched on this, but at 8-2, are the Minnesota Vikings overrated?
So
it's
go with
how
it.
You phrase
go
the
with
question,
however you're
right?
feeling.
No,
go with
it is. You remember 2022 when we were like, oh, the point differential, like this team's not very good, like they're probably not as good as we think they are. I think the Vikings are probably like overall better than that team. Like this team is better than that team because I think there's a little bit more. The point differential is way better. The metrics are better. Now the record is pretty close to that too. It's hard to say if I think they're overrated. I don't know if I think they're overrated. Whereas I think to what we said earlier is I think they've done a good job of, well, not a good job. They've played to their level of competition, and that's been good and bad throughout the season, right? And I think that's kind of where they are. But you're not going to give the wins back. So at the end of it, like I don't know. I think like what we said, our expectations for this team are like playoff team. Can they win a playoff game? I think there's a possibility. I'm not like 100% sure about that, but I think they're like win a wild card game, maybe losing the division round type of team. For me, like to me that. So I don't think they're overrated in that aspect. But if you want to look at the power rankings and you want to say the top, I know early in the season people are like, this is the best team in football. They better tell them that everybody was saying we're the best team in football. Now that was never the case. It's okay. Like at one point I played that way, but we knew it wasn't sustainable. Just because like the talent on the roster is good, not great. I don't think they're overrated. I think they're pretty evenly rated if you were to look at like probably where they stack up across the league and in the NFC. Like they're a wild card team, and I know they're 8-2, but they are still a wild card team, and I think to me that like puts them right in a good spot.
No notes.
Jesse?
Excellent points. No feedback. No. The only thing I keen in on that overrated word. I think everybody's come back down to earth with where the Minnesota Vikings are. You go back to the beginning of the year and nationally everyone's talking about how great the Minnesota Vikings are, how deep they are, blah, blah, blah. Everything's kind of come back down. Yes, they've raised the expectations, I think, a little bit for what everybody had at preseason time. But now I think they're very even keeled. They're very whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. So there you go.
I like that. I'm going to steal that going forward at some point, Jesse.
I stole it from 10 Things I Hate About You. I'll be completely transparent.
Oh.
Great movie.
Great movie. Movie.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't even remember that line.
Are you old enough for that movie, Ross?
Yeah. That's our gal Styles and what's his name? Yeah.
Yep.
And
well,
then
the girl. So the scene plays out.
Suit.
Scene plays out the younger sister who everyone has the hots for, who used to be Alex Mack, in case anybody remembers that fantastic Nickelodeon show. But she is like, I know you can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed? And then Gabrielle Union, who's in there, says, I think
she's
you can be in Europe.
Movies.
She's in all the 90s movies and still looks the same today as she did in the 90s. It's brilliant.
100%.
Yes.
So I want to point out a few weeks ago when I was on my deathbed, I got Jesse's Clueless rolling with the homies. And then also, I think we are literally all the same age. So what is with this hate of, am I even old enough?
We don't need to say how old that is then either. We'll just keep that.
Right? Yeah, we'll just keep that.
Pushing 40. I'll say this on the overrated part.
Oh, my God.
The NFL doesn't do rankings. I actually hate power rankings because I don't think they mean anything.
I
You
hate
know
them
what
too.
does?
They don't.
You know what does rankings in the NFL? The playoff system. So I think you can look at an 8-2 team and say, are they a good 8-2? Are they maybe a hollow 8-2? I think you can have that argument. And I'm not specifically attacking the question. I just don't love when people use overrated or how highly rated a team in the NFL is. Look at the records in the playoff system. At the end of the year, that will determine who's good and who isn't.
And I think that's why
why
we've been saying, like, this is a wild card team. Like, they're not better than the Lions. We know that. It's pretty definitive at this point. And they may be 8-2, but being a wild card team at 8-2 makes more sense for them than being a division winner. That's just my opinion on that.
But can they beat the Lions on one Sunday in January?
There's a possibility.
They play the game for a reason. Question number 2 comes from Ryan. So many fans. So many. I think I butchered this question when I transcribed it. My apologies, Ryan. But the main question is, so many Vikings fans at this game. We saw it. We saw multiple pictures of basically all of Minnesota walking into Smashville last week in Jacksonville. That doesn't surprise me. But it doesn't surprise me any week because Vikings fans tend to, I don't want to say take over every stadium, but they take over most stadiums that they're able to. You know, there's a few in the NFL where maybe
especially
you
the
can't.
warm weather places.
Correct.
Right.
Better traveling fan bases than the Vikings. Can you name some off the top of your head, Jesse, and then Miles?
Are we talking pro sport specific? Because
I'm thinking
Iowa State
NFL
Cyclones,
specifically.
baby. Speaking, you can take away all those wins
Here
they
we
had at the
go.
beginning of the year.
There
They're
we
terrible.
go.
They're a terrible football team. I'm very upset
You
with them.
guaranteed
It's
me
fine.
that they were going to be a playoff team.
Did you see them completely fall apart? They have fallen apart. They're out of the top 25. It's just been a tough takeaway. Take away the other wins. I don't care.
Cincinnati.
I don't care.
They're 8-2.
Yeah, but
Like the Vikings, overrated.
but basketball season's coming up,
Or in
so
the terms
they'll
of
get me
college
back
football?
on there. Yeah,
Not rated at all.
I know. It's sad, but Iowa State travels well. But that's because in Iowa, that's like their pro
only
team,
two.
right?
There's only
Like
two.
the Hawkeyes, I think fans do as well. But that's everything for them. Plus, I'll give a shout out to my hockey fans. As much as I despise this program, North Dakota travels really well. But that's also similar to Iowa. That is their pro thing. Like, that's everything. North Dakota travels insanely well. Pro sports, I can't really think of one
Cowboys, Steelers.
offhand.
That's
Oh, there you go.
Yep. 49ers travel.
But a lot
really
of
well.
that, too,
Packers.
isn't even always traveling. Because, like, for Minnesota, as we mentioned, the warm weather, there's a lot of transplants, right? Like, a lot of Minnesotans are, flying out. So that could always be a big part as well.
Well, and like places like Florida and Nashville are pipelines for Minnesota, right? Like Arizona too. Like
Arizona,
a lot of people are moving to those places. Country music fans, I don't know, y'all country music fans
Save on taxes and stuff like that too.
Want to be
Arizona,
country
Florida.
music.
Yeah.
Want to be country music singers. I don't know. Yeah.
Shout out to
Last
Jesse
night
for
I
saying.
went- what?
Shout out to Jesse for saying so many Minnesotans.
So many
And
Minnesotans.
I don't even think you were trying to.
It comes out. I was really practicing
It's
a Boston
thick.
accent last week because I watched Miracle for the first time in a year and was really just stuck with that. And yeah,
It's
now we're bringing it
Miracle
back.
once a year movie.
No,
for you?
it was usually once a week for me. I'm obsessed with that movie. I'm not afraid to
It's so
admit it.
great.
I once paid $20 to take a picture with Mike Ruzioni, but it wasn't really Mike Ruzioni. It was the actor who played Mike Ruzioni. It's a problem. It's an obsession. I don't apologize for it, but I took a year off and came back harder than
I
ever.
was really hoping that story ended with you got bamboozled and paid just some random
That was
person.
my hope too.
No,
That'd have been
I
great.
knew who it was, and I knew it was the actor, and I still did it anyway. And I was like,
Did you just
"Yep,
like
I don't
offer him
care."
$20? You're like, hey, will you
Yeah,
take
he was
20
like
bucks? to take a
wandering
picture?
around. He was wandering around at the expo, and I was like, God, I love that movie so much, and I'm going to. I've met like the actual 1980s players and taken like shots with them before, which was a highlight of my life without question. But the actors were younger and closer to my age, so there was a little bit more of a direct appeal to that as well.
Oh, I think I know where we're going with this. Speaking of going with this, St. Thomas is going home for the final time this season. They return to O'Shaughnessy Stadium one more time to take on Dayton this Saturday on 1500 ESPN and 1500ESPN.com. Pregame at 12:30, kickoff at 1.
Time now for the Before I Die crew to give us their Before I Dies.
I feel bad I threw us off track there because the travel would have been a way better segue for into the St. Thomas read. But
Oh, you know what?
my
Totally
apologies.
fine. All good.
You did a great
All
job.
good.
You
Off
did a
your
great
game
job.
this week.
I think not to do your job, as I go glitchy again, not to do your job, Jesse, but I think Miles has like 30 seconds with
Yeah,
us, so we
yeah.
should make him give us a before I
He's
die.
going to try to get out of here before he does it.
I was
but
trying. I
giddy up.
was kind of hoping.
These can literally be everything. How do you not have anything? Come up with
I have
something, my guy.
I have something. I just not, before I die, speaking of so I was up at like 3:30 this morning with my daughter. We started kicking her naps out, like no more naps on the weekends. And this girl still wouldn't go to bed last night and still decided she wanted to wake up at like 3:30. And I just would love to get some of my sleep back again. Like we'd hit those spurts, like as parents, you lose sleep, you get some of it back later. You lose sleep again. There's this wave. Me and her both fell asleep on the couch watching Gabby's Dollhouse. If anybody knows what that is, shout out. Fell asleep on the couch. My son came down and yelled at me for not waking him up too.
Sounds all right.
So I've been up for a while. It's just though that time of life. So just when does it get you think you're out of it? So my daughter's almost 3.5. And she's just riding those waves. Like, I don't know how she just lives off of no sleep.
Yeah.
Barely will eat the food I give her. But she loves snacks. Same with my son. My son's picky. Is so picky. I love being a parent. It is like, it's amazing. I'm sitting here acting like I don't. I love it, by the way. But
It's hard.
oh,
It's so hard.
I'm just
Here's
tired.
your give and take. Here's the give and take that we do. My husband and I will sleep in. We might even get until like 7:30, 8 o'clock. Because the 7 and the 5-year-old are making a complete disaster of our kitchen, getting their own cereal and their own breakfast. So we're like, all right, if we can accept the fact that we're going to have to clean up this mess, that's okay. So that's what we're doing on occasion. I come out and they have like just the giantest bowl of cereal you've ever seen. I'm like, well, I chose that life. I chose that extra 20 minutes of sleep. And you know what? I'm fine with it.
See, I have a kid who is picky and doesn't want to go downstairs without one of us.
Yes.
And I also have a new roommate, like my son at this point. It's gotten to the point where I don't even realize it or like notice it. He comes into our room in the middle of the night and just sleeps in between my wife and I. And like, when I wake up, that's when I notice. I don't even notice when he comes in anymore. That's just like where we're at.
Right.
Just life.
So
It changes its life.
So
I keep giving you more life.
Is the before I die that you want more sleep?
Yes. That's it. That's it.
Got
Just
it.
at some point in my life, I would love to get a little bit more sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm not having any
fair.
more kids, so that's a positive.
We're rolling there.
So you're down to like in 16 years when they go to college, you'll get a little bit more sleep. Maybe. Because then you'll constantly be worrying about them. That's what my sources tell me.
Yes.
Sources
100%.
being people with
I
kids.
function on 6 hours of sleep, no more, no less. Like
I
6
function
hours,
on-
I can't
I'm
do.
at-
I mean, I can do it, but like my body. I even tried to go to bed at 9 o'clock last week. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna sleep in. I would have been able to, except my body woke me up at 3 o'clock and was like, nope, you're awake. You don't need any more sleep. And I'm like, yes, I do. Like I'm able to get more sleep, and I couldn't. So I went to the gym instead.
I'm like give me like I've gotten to a point where I can function off anywhere between 4 to 6.
Ugh.
It just depends, It's you just gotta live.
Coffee.
Like nothing I can do.
Coffee is your friend. Coffee is your friend.
I caught that nap with my daughter on the couch, So
Yeah.
At least there's that. That to me is like,
Right.
all right, I'll get through the day.
I don't want to get you in trouble, Miles, but I think we're past your heart out time. Do you
I
need to
know.
hop into a meeting?
I do.
He's having a good time with us, Ross. Why
I
are you-
am having a great time.
I'm
venting.
I want to
Venting,
make
he
sure
needs
that
this.
Miles.
This is his safe space.
I want to make sure that Miles can continue to be afforded the opportunity to join us and not be looking for employment 24/7. So I'm just trying
Right?
to
Thank
keep
you.
an eye out
I
for him.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm cool if you get
All
fired. You can hang out with us all day. No big deal.
You paying my bills too?
Well, no,
All right.
I wouldn't go that far. I
All
still
right,
am a
all
sports
right.
reporter as a living. That doesn't pay you anything. Just so we're aware.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Here's what I got for you, Jesse, and I've brought this up before. And years ago, you may remember this, ESPN did it, but it was only for games within their own affiliation or college football network. We need to work with all conferences, all networks, and come up with some form of college football red zone where you can be ducking in and out of literally every FBS game that is happening within that window. Very similar to what the NFL does. Now, I know at any given point, there might be 30 or 40 college football games happening at one time. Yeah. But you can do it where you really only show like the big plays from some of the lesser games. But instead of me, because I'm a college football nut, instead of me, doing my own quad box or watching 8 different games at a time, it would just be nice if I can watch one channel that's showing me everything as it happens. So let's will that into existence for college football fans. And before I die, I'm going to sneak in a bonus one here. I can't believe I didn't mention this, Jesse. Before I die, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will quit going belly up in the Grey Cup and not look like pumpkins. They are now losers of 3 straight Grey Cups, having been to 5 in a row. It's a tough morning for the W.
Winnipeg's hockey team's looking pretty good right now, though, so they got that going for them. They don't have much else going for them in Winnipeg usually, but that's also
I think
a plus.
the few, I don't want to say few, it's a good fan base, but I guarantee you there are way more Winnipeg Jets fans than Blue Bombers fans, so I think they'll be okay.
But I've dabbled on Winnipeg radio quite often, which is always fun. I love my Winnipeggers up there. They're a good time. A lot of Blue Bombers fans, like they usually snatch me right in there with the Blue Bombers conversation, so there's an affinity for it.
I listened to their pregame before joining CBS Sports Network's coverage. I'll never get over how great the Canadian accent is. It's so like good. Our accent on steroids. Yeah, it's so great.
It's so good.
Boss?
Before I die, I am going to remember that I am, in fact, reaching near 40 and that I do not, in fact, need approximately 7 tequila shots, chocolate things that have other. Yeah, I don't need to be doing this, even when I'm with my high school friends for a one-night surprise victory. I was rough. On Friday. It was a one-day or Saturday. So there was a hockey game Thursday night. Got up, went to Brainerd with my high school friends to surprise one of my friends that lives up there Friday night, which turned into a Saturday morning at like 4 a.m. And then I got up at 6 to drive down because the Wild played. Saturday, I had to get to morning skate. Nearly every hockey player, who, mind you, have missing teeth and look their own distinct look, was like, "Whoo, you look tough today." And I was like, "Thank you. I am well aware of this." So before I die, I will remember my age when hanging out with some of my best friends and start to act like it a little bit more, or at least when it comes to the decisive, no, I don't need that shot. I'm going to start practicing that saying over and over again.
As somebody who I believe is the exact same age as you, Jesse, I back this up because there are times too, and I think we've all had these experiences for the ones who are getting older like ourselves. Some days you'll have literally like 3 crappy beers and you feel fine the next day.
Yeah.
And then a week later, for some reason, you'll have the same 3 crappy beers over the same time period, and you wake up the next morning and you maybe don't feel awful, but you don't feel great.
Yeah.
And that stinks. One of these days, I'm going to become one of those people that no longer drinks alcohol, but before I do that, I think I need to go out with a bang.
Right. Yeah, that would have been, that's true.
I don't know.
Like, I was invited to go watch the Vikings game and have some beers. I was like, no, I'm not that I was hurting still. I just was like, I'm good. Like we're still drying out a bit, but
yeah,
we're managing. So I'm sure many can relate to that. One day we'll learn to act our age in some remnants or another. But that's going to do it for this week's Before I Die. As always, check out all of our other content on Purple Daily. Shout out to everybody that's given us a listen. Don't forget to check out all the other Score North content, which includes hockey, baseball, basketball, Twins, all the good stuff. And as always, Minnesota Vikings talk back this weekend as they get ready to face the Bears.
The Bears.
Skol Vikes. Have a great week, guys.
Hannah Penn.